It was supposed to be the greatest team football had ever seen.
The Argentine football superstar
Lionel Messi
has agreed to join PSG.
Billions of euros were invested with a single goal in mind: to win the Champions League. But we all know the story. Despite all the star power, they couldn't conquer Europe until one decision in 2024 changed everything, and Paris was finally able to lift the long-awaited trophy. Today we're looking at the transformation of Paris from mega flop to Champions League winners.
Nous étions les premiers à vous donner l'information. Dès ce midi, le PSG est vendu à des investisseurs du Qatar.
2011, the year PSG transformed from an ordinary football club into a football empire. Before the takeover, you had to go back to 1994 to find the last league title. The club had struggled repeatedly with problems and mismanagement. They did win the UEFA Cup in 1996, but after 2000, things went downhill, despite talented players like Ronaldinho. In 2007, they finished only 15th, and a year later, they nearly got relegated, finishing 16th. But then came 2011. Qatar's entry. They wanted to make the capital club a flagship in football and also use it for marketing purposes. And with the takeover, PSG was suddenly not only the richest club in France, but one of the richest clubs in the world. And they immediately went on a shopping spree. These were the transfer expenses before the takeover, and in the first year they spent 107 million euros on new players. The first big stars came in 2012 with defender Thiago Silva and striker Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who made quite an impression in his 4 years. In 2013, Edson Cavani joined for 65 million, in 2014 David Luiz for 50 million, and in 2015 Di Maria for 63 million. They even signed Beckham in 2013 for 5 months for football and marketing purposes. With all their new shiny stars, PSG was untouchable in France. They had an all-star team and became champions every single year. But for President Nasser Al-Khelaifi, there was only one goal: Europe, the Champions League. And here, PSG failed every single year.
He was managed to get the cross in and
De Bruyne shot! And plays into the box! It's in the net!
Paris thought, hey, we need an absolute superstar to compete in Europe. And in 2017, they shook the football world.
This absolutely shatters the previous world record fee, which was around the $115 million mark. He's basically saying he's ready for a new challenge. He's extremely happy to be joining PSG.
PSG signed Neymar for a whopping 222 million, still the most expensive player of all time. Allegedly, the Brazilian wanted to step out of Messi's shadow, and at PSG, he was to become the new face, the superstar of the club. Barca fans were furious, but it became clear to everyone, PSG were set on their goal. And they weren't done yet.
Paris Saint-Germain have apparently agreed a deal to sign the biggest teenage talent in world football, Kylian Mbappé, from their French rivals Monaco.
It was clear to many, Mbappé was the next global superstar. Young, fast, and incredibly talented. Now PSG had the two most expensive players in world football. They had spent around 383 million euros on just those two. But clubs and leagues started to complain.
is that La Liga have filed a complaint with UEFA accusing Manchester City and Paris Saint-Germain of breaking financial fair play rules.
PSG has many sponsors closely tied to the state of Qatar. This constantly raises questions about independence and the true market value of sponsorship deals. I mean, Qatar Airways, Qatar Tourism Authority and Qatar National Bank are among the sponsors, and they pay millions each year to the club. So one could assume Qatar says to them, hey, pay PSG more than the market rate, so Paris gets a higher income and can spend more. Nevertheless, the club was penalized by UEFA under financial fair play. In 2022, they had to pay a €10 million fine, not exactly a punishment that hit PSG hard. And on top of that, the president has good connections with UEFA and the others. So PSG kept on buying. The ultimate super team began to take shape, but one piece was still missing. After Barcelona's financial crisis, PSG signed Messi on a free transfer in 2021. But as we all know, even with this super team, PSG failed. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't reach their goal, winning the Champions League. If you look at the top teams in Europe over the last 10 years, one thing stands out. They mainly consist of players who are willing to work hard and give everything in every match. PSG wasn't like that. PSG was a FIFA team. They had high ratings on paper, so they must be good, right? Well, that's not how football works. One superstar in a team, okay, but a whole collection? That creates an unbalanced team on the pitch and a dressing room full of egos. And we saw that on the field. As Mbappé grew more into a superstar, many fans saw him as the real leader of the attack, something Neymar didn't really want to accept. You could clearly see the tension between the two. They were constantly arguing, for example, about who would take penalties or fighting over passes. And Messi, he still showed his magic in Paris, but he often looked out of place, as if he never warmed up to Paris. His focus was on the national team. There, he was celebrated. In Paris, he was booed. And for years, there was another major problem. PSG had no clear tactical identity or playing style. Like Manchester United, coaches changed constantly and each wanted to play differently. Since the Qatar takeover, there have been 7 coaches. Ancelotti, who started it all but then left for Real. Laurent Blanc, who dominated the league but had no success in Europe. Unai Emery, who previously had won the Europe League 3 times in a row but didn't find his footing in Paris at all. Thomas Tuchel led PSG to their first Champions League final but was sacked a month later. Pochettino couldn't handle the egos in the squad. Gauthier never really had control. And finally, Luis Enrique, who finally brought the identity they longed for. More on that later. Each coach had his own philosophy, his own transfers. PSG was constantly being rebuilt. And while teams like Real, Bayern or City had a clear identity, PSG felt like a project with no plan, built on vibes, not tactics. And many egos and no strategy is not a good combination. But the biggest problem since the 2011 takeover was the mentality. Whenever things got serious for Paris, they collapsed. Between 2012 and 2016, they were eliminated in the quarterfinals of the Champions League every time. And then in 2017, one of the most famous games in history. In the round of 16, they faced Barcelona, who had an insane attack with Neymar, Messi and Suarez. But in the first leg in Paris, PSG was dominant and won 4-0. It seemed it was over for Barcelona. No team had ever overturned a 0-4 in the Champions League. But in the return leg, Suarez scored early, then an own goal. Halftime was 2-0 for Barcelona. Then a penalty, 3-0. Barca needed one more to equalize, but then the salvation for Paris.
Forward, falls to the spot, oh, it's a goal!
Cavani made it 3-1. Now Barca needed 3 more goals, basically impossible. But then Neymar scored from a free kick, another penalty, and then this moment in the 95th minute.
Gets onto his left foot and plays it to the box. It's in the net! It's in the net! It's in the net!
Goal 6-1 for Barcelona. Paris was out. The biggest collapse in football history.
It's in the net! It's in the net! It's in the net! It's in the net! Barcelona have won!
¿Tu peor día en estos 2 años de París fue el 6-1 con el Barça?
Sí.
Now to 2019, more drama for Paris. In the round of 16 first leg, PSG had beaten Manchester United 2-0 at Old Trafford, and 10 United players were injured for the return leg. It should have been an easy game, but just after 2 minutes,
real chance, round the goalkeeper, can he score? Yes!
Panic in Paris, but they got back into the game. 1-1, but then another mistake.
Fancies the shot, why not? Keeper's made a best of it, Lukaku's!
It was 1-2 again. They still led thanks to the first leg, but then in the 91st minute, handball, penalty. Rashford scored, United went through. And in 2022, the same again. In the first leg of the round of 16, they beat Real Madrid 1-0. Madrid didn't have a single shot on target. In the return leg, Mbappé scored again, but then came a 17-minute collapse.
Roma. Ui, das geht nicht. Vinicius Junior, Benzema! Für Benzema! Karim Benzema! Junior, Benzema!
Benzema scored 3 times. PSG's defense? Not existent. These 3 meltdowns exposed PSG's biggest weakness. They collapsed under pressure, had no real leaders, and a shaky defense. PSG's experiment, Galacticos 2.0, had failed. Money can buy superstars, but not the mentality and balance you need. After the Real debacle, it seemed certain Mbappé would go to Madrid, but PSG offered him an unprecedented, insane contract.
So it's a 3-year deal. It's £1 million a week in wages. It's £100 million in a signing-on fee. And there are all sorts of bonuses for goals, for Champions League performances, for Ballon d'Ors. And he has control over certain of his image rights.
Mbappé became perhaps the most powerful player in the world, something Neymar didn't like. He felt demoted, and rumors said Mbappé wanted him gone. Then the World Cup final, Messi versus Mbappé. Mbappé scored 3 goals, but Messi took the trophy home. After that, their relationship seemed tense. In the next season, again, round of 16 exit, the fans had enough.
Maybe the greatest soccer player ever, Lionel Messi, intends to play for Inter Miami.
Al Hilal have signed Neymar, the Brazilian superstar from Paris Saint-Germain.
The superstar team had officially failed. Only Mbappé remained. PSG tried a fresh start. Coach Luis Enrique came in and they signed players like Dembélé and Kolo Muani. They still cost a lot, but there was only one superstar, Mbappé. And hey, the coach seemed to bring some promising ideas. In the 2023-24 season, they won the league and cup and also performed well in the Champions League, but ultimately lost to the mentality monster Dortmund in the semi-finals. And then, at the end of the season, the next shock.
Club future, the most drawn-out transfer saga of all time, I think, is nearly at an end because we can say that Real Madrid are expected to announce and confirm the signing of Kylian Mbappé.
Mbappé didn't want to stay anymore. His relationship with President Nasser Al-Khelaifi seemed broken and he left as a free transfer to Real Madrid. After everything PSG had done for him, this felt like betrayal for them. From the 2011 takeover until summer 2024, they spent around 2 billion euros on transfers. And yes, they won the French league 10 times in 13 years, but the Champions League, not once. So PSG announced a new direction. Young players, a team built around a system, a team that doesn't just look good on FIFA, but also on the pitch. And that's exactly what happened in the 2024-25 season. Instead of superstars like Messi, Neymar or Mbappé, hungry, tactically disciplined players stood in the spotlight. Names like Désiré Doué, Warren Zaïre-Emery, Bradley Barcola or João Neves. Even established and expensive signings like Kvaratskhelia or Pacho weren't brought in as stars, but as puzzle pieces integrated into a clear system. Coach Luis Enrique formed a team that pressed collectively, defended together, and won. PSG no longer played like a world selection, but like a united collective, and that successfully.
Voici le match suivant. Encore une belle affiche.
They won the league and the cup and marched all the way to the Champions League final.
L'Espagnol avec Vitinha, il a de l'espace, Vitinha, ballon pour Doué, Doué!
PSG had done it. Overall, they scored 38 goals, an average of 2.24 per game, and only conceded 15 goals. Moreover, they recorded 7 clean sheets in the knockout stage and averaged almost 60% ball possession, reflecting their control during their games. And if you want to see more football documentaries, then check out this one.